Howdy, and welcome to another episode of Adult Onset Horsemanship. I'm your host, Daniel Dolphin.
I want to let y'all know, if you have been following me and enjoying some of the bit information that we have got, we have a new online course that's being released. It has only been available up till now in a masterclass version that is like 30 hours long. We are now going to release the original 6 modules of that course, which does include the bit video, but a lot of add-ons as well as a 70-page study guide that goes along with the course. We have also included in this self-guided course 2 of the videos from the master class where we had some special guests coming in. So that's something like an extra 4 to 5 hours worth of content for you to watch that I think adds a lot of value to the course and gives you an idea of what the master class would be like if you decided to upgrade to it at a later time. You also, because you've already bought the self-guided part of the course, you won't have to pay full freight for the master class version if you decide to go to it later. If you're interested in checking that out, head over to thebitcourse.com. We will have a link in the show notes to the specific page with the self-guided course if you're interested in more information. At the very least, I would encourage you to get on our subscriber list for the newsletter. I do send out pretty regular emails with some tips and things, and that's not stuff I share on social media. That's all exclusive to this particular newsletter. So anyway, check it out. I think it's well worth your time and money, and it does cover way more than just the dry bit mechanics and stuff you may think it has. It's got a whole lot in there about how to use your hands, how to apply this bit in practical terms versus that bit, kind of the differences between them, the things this is going to help you with versus that. So it isn't just mechanical kind of stuff. It's a lot of very practical information as well. I'm very happy to be joined by our guest today. Morgan Wagner is a face that you don't see very often, but you are probably very familiar with her work. She is the owner and trainer of Endo the Blind, the Appaloosa horse missing both of his eyes, that she gets to do feats that are truly amazing and more than often people get completely sighted horses to be able to do. I've been intrigued by what she's doing for a long time, and I'm really honored that she chose to come on the podcast. I don't think she does very many interviews and so forth like this. I learned a lot about what she's got going on in this conversation, and I hope y'all will enjoy it. Well, Morgan, we start everybody off with our icebreaker questions, and these are for points and prizes, so you want to be on your A game here. Okay?
Okay.
If you were a Jedi, what % chance is there that you would misuse the Force?
I've never watched Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Morning or evening?
Oh, it depends. Morning is for work, evening's for relaxing.
Do you have a standout horse memory?
Too many. That's just I don't know which would be the right choice for that answer. I don't know. Probably something with Endo, doing something we're not supposed to do. And then just working with him to get through it. And we've had so many of those.
Okay. Well, that's a good problem to have. Too many to choose from.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most important quality for a horseman or horsewoman to have?
Oh, geez. I think that depends on what they do, because everybody has their own skills and different disciplines. It just depends. I mean, thinking for themselves would be good, problem solving, because you don't really have time to think about it when something starts going wrong with a horse. Yeah,
I like
that
it.
just depends. It just depends.
Bay or sorrel, or any other color version?
I like white. White seems to be my favorite. The light grays or the whites like Endo. I like white horses.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how well can you back a trailer?
10, maybe a 12.
I like it. Would you tell us something unexpected about you?
A lot of people don't know I have serious health problems. I usually keep that to myself because people don't hire sick people to do physical work. Um, I don't talk about that much, but I would say I have severe health problems that I don't let other people know.
Okay. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Ugh, not really, but it does taste better cold the next day, but not hot. That's disgusting.
Okay. Thoughts or feelings? Would you consider yourself more of a cerebral, analytical, logical person, or more intuitive, go with your gut, feel your way through it?
I think I have strong emotions and I try not to show that. So both.
Well, you mentioned the critical thinking earlier, and you're the first guest that's ever answered that way. So I was thinking you were going to be a more of a thoughts kind of a person, but there's always some combination in the mix there. Right lead or left lead? Do you have one that is more natural for you, one you have to be a little more thoughtful and considerate of, or not?
It depends on the horse and what we're doing. I know horses prefer going to the left, but if I need something that I need more straightness for a certain exercise to teach them, I usually do it to the right.
Would you say that your hands or your legs are better?
Mm. See, that's another hard question. I steer Endo with just my legs when I have that neck rope on him. That neck rope is more for me just hanging on because he doesn't have a mane. So I'd say legs. I'd say legs.
Dogs or cats?
Cats. I don't like dogs. I like other people's
Wow.
dogs, but I don't ever want to have another one. Too needy.
Okay. Do you agree that hot dog water is the opposite of holy water?
Ew. Just even the smell. Yeah, that's I don't eat hot dogs. That's disgusting.
Would you share with us a horse industry related pet peeve?
Oh, you told me about this, maybe asking that. Um, and I've thought about it. I'll just say what affects me personally. I do get frustrated with people coming to me and asking for help with their blind horses. And the times that I have tried doing it over the internet, it just turns into a game of Clue where I'll write out what might work, but then they tell me, well, they can't do X, Y, and Z, like change the horse's environment, the fencing, and they want the magical word that will change their horse into Endo. So that's very frustrating. Um, and then I got people message me every day about trying to give me their blind horse, or there's some blind horse at the auction, and I, they should take responsibility. Because they don't even want to bring the horse to me. Like it's over in Canada, and I'm like, okay, yeah, bring it to me. Well, I can't do that. So I have to take care of this disabled horse for the rest of its life, and you can't even drive it to me. So that's what frustrates me. What people do with their blind horses, a lot of them don't want to put in the time and effort, and it's their responsibility.
People can be very, very generous with someone else's time and money and resources, for sure.
Yes, there we go.
Are you decisive or indecisive?
See, that's another thing that I'm just both. I always question if I'm doing things right. So I worry about bad comments because I'm not doing the right thing. They'll keep me up all night. But I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm there and I make a choice.
Well, I don't think, you shouldn't worry about bad comments on it is the internet. After all, there are some people whose whole day is wrapped up around ruining someone else's. So yeah, definitely water on a duck's back there. I know that can be hard to do at times, but
I'm always wondering, how can I do it better? And so comments like that, maybe they're the only ones to be brave enough to mention it.
well, I don't think I would look at those comments as brave in your case. I mean, you have got a blind horse and you're doing amazing things with it that a lot of people can't do on a sighted horse. I think the brave aspect of that rests solely in your corner, not some person on the internet anonymously critiquing others. So anyway, my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I know. I believe that too, because I mean, it seems like pee off is the thing I run into a lot. I mean, just everything, everybody thinks they know everything. But with writing, even to places I've been talking to people before we do the clinic or event, and I'm thinking, why do they have me here if they can do X, Y, and Z? I don't know if I'm good enough to be here to teach them, and they can't do a leg yield, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it seems like people think they know everything when they've read it and they don't understand the process. Like they'll look at your P off, well, it's not a 10. Well, yeah, it's a process. You have to, I mean, work the hind first, work the front, you work on it bit by bit. And people who haven't done it don't understand that. Like, why isn't the horse perfect? Well, it's a process. So, yeah, that'll be another pet peeve of mine.
Instant gratification. That's what everybody wants now. Yeah. And last question for you to conserve time. Would you tell us your favorite dinosaur or deep sea creature?
Dinosaur, the T-Rex. That would be
Okay.
something that nobody knows. I used to have nightmares about the T-Rex because they took me to see the Jurassic Park movie at like age 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the T-Rex.
Well, that's a reasonable choice there, especially if it gave you PTSD at the age of 4. So, I'm gonna tabulate your score here. I've got you 4,986 points, which is our high score of all time, Morgan, which entitles you to either an awkward silence or a genuine compliment. Your choice.
Take the compliment.
Well, this is not going to be hard at all. I mean, you've got this animal that, and I don't want to get into the history. I want to let you tell the history yourself. But you had him most of his life, and uh, guided him through the process of going blind. You obviously were very thoughtful about that coming from the future, and you didn't discard him or throw him away, but went to great ends and kind of mapped out some new road, new territory on things people obviously hadn't done, or at least not commonly prior. And you have made lemonade out of a lemon here, so to speak, with your situation. And then hearing that you have your own problems on top of that, I mean, you're pretty damn inspirational. So my
Thank you.
hat's off to you on all of that stuff, which makes the whole if I don't know if you have a big brother, but if you want to give me names of some of these people making dirty comments, I'm happy to just go slap some people. We can make it a U.S. tour or something. Not enough people get slapped these days, so it's absolutely absurd that people are taking shots at you on the internet. So you don't need to harbor any time or ill will from those kinds of morons out there. So anyway,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Well, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and the story of Endo? How did you come across him and the process of him going blind and how you found yourself in that conundrum and worked your way through it?
Okay. So I grew up in Southern California and we didn't have horses. I saw horses on the TV, like horse racing, and that was it. And then at 13, we moved from Southern California to Oregon to my grandma's farm at first. And so she bred Endo and she used to breed POAs and quarter horses. And she told me and my sister we could each pick out a horse. So I picked Endo out of the 3 babies. And I didn't know how to put a halter on, and he wasn't halter broke. So my grandma said, go to the tack room and find a halter that might fit and figure it out. And I'm glad she did that because that is pretty much what we've done his whole life. Even when he went blind, I had to think it through and find out what worked and didn't work. So I'm happy she did that. So yeah, I started him and I rode him about 3 years old. And then I started getting sick right before he did. And we did everything together. And then one summer when he was 8, he started to have weepy eyes and he got diagnosed with uveitis. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And he used to be trained for Liberty work with body cues and he used to jump. And that's how I knew he was slowly going blind, was he couldn't see my body cues anymore. He couldn't see the jumps. So I sold my jump set and I was very sad about that because I made it. He could do up to 4-foot courses and all I had to do was look at the next jump and he would swap leads and see his own distance. And I just sat there. So yeah, both eyes came out 6 months apart when he was 13 and he was terrified. I tried blindfolding him beforehand, and the first time I did that, he just stood and shook and didn't want to move.
So how old were you? He's 13 when this happens. How old are you?
I don't know what's 13 plus 13, 26.
Okay. All right. I was thinking you were younger, like 14 or something. So just okay. Yeah. Or I guess that if you're haltering him, yeah, then when he's a baby, then that makes more sense. So I don't know why I had in my head that you were that much younger when this happened, but okay. So 26. Okay. So that does help me understand how you manage this, because I'm just imagining a young teenager navigating this, and I couldn't see how it'd be possible, but that makes a little more sense. So okay, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine. It helps me think about what I should be saying. So yeah, I had to slowly build his confidence by taking just walks from the stall to the arena, then stall to outside to eat some grass, and then started getting him into his familiar pasture. He didn't want to leave the gate at first, so I started putting his hay further and further away from the gate. So that would encourage him to go move about his pen to find his food. And then it was just seeing, I mean, he kept showing me his abilities more and more. Like at first, he would run into the walls, but then I noticed he started sensing the walls and gates. And then it took maybe a couple years for him to be confident enough to trot around and play. But even after that, I mean, it took a while for him to be able to canter around on his own. because he was able to sense things. We started showing maybe a year, 2 years after he went blind. We did working equitation, but now he's currently banned. They banned blind horses. So I taught him to jump for that by voice cue, and the voice cue's jump, jump. So I'd ride him up to the jump, ask him to put his head down to touch it to see how high it was, and then I would give the cue word. And so he had flying changes and did the obstacles, bridges, gates, side pass poles. And we worked our way up to master's level, which is riding with one hand. So the dressage phase is a musical freestyle. And then you have your kind of like a hunter round where you do dressage riding through the obstacles. And then the third phase is speed. So it's speed through the obstacles. And that was his favorite phase. He likes to canter, he likes to go. You can even see him doing his little happy dance right before I ask him to canter because he gets to canter. So he retired at master's level, which is the highest level. And then shortly after that, blind horses were banned. So I don't mention that. I don't say working equitation anywhere because I don't want to promote it. And then at the same time, I don't want to deal with the drama of letting people know that bothers me. I'm just letting it go and moving on to different things with endo.
It bothers me. I mean, I have to say that gives working equitation is something I would hold in high esteem generally, but that gives them a black eye as far as I'm concerned. I think if you're got the guts to try it and it's not detrimental to the horse, which it's obviously not in your case, then who the hell should be in your way or making rules for it? So
Yeah, I feel like they say it's for liability, but I mean, he did like a show a month without a single incident. Even with judges being in my line, of my pathway, I still went around them just fine, where you have other trainers crashing into the judges' table or wiping out on the bridge because they try to jump on it. Endo was so safe. And I think it was more, I mean, they've said it, people that were part of the organization, that he's not what a working equitation horse is. So I feel like maybe they didn't like the publicity he was getting because they thought he didn't represent working equitation. So I don't know. I don't care. I don't think about it very much, but it's
yeah,
just part of his story.
and I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but just to clear up, so you mentioned I always thought he was in Appaloosa, and you mentioned before that your grandma bred Poas and quarter horses, and Poas, for anybody that doesn't know, or this Pony of the Americas, they're kind of like a 3/4 scale model of an Appaloosa, but he looks to me to be a pretty good size horse. So what is he breeding wise?
He is, his dad was 13.2 and he's 15.2. So he's supposed to be a POA, but now he's hardship registered with the Appaloosa Association.
Okay, all right. Well, so he's a freak in more ways than one, huh?
Hmm.
All right. So you did working equitation. I also got to ask you here, like there are parts of this story that I can kind of see. One of the parts that to me seems like it had to be incredibly challenging is trailering him around. So how did you approach that? Because obviously you're hauling him around to go to these different shows, or was it not
Yeah,
that big of a deal?
well, he's very barn sour. He's been his whole life, and he's also been very spooky. And when he was going blind, I made the decision as he can't be that way anymore for his safety, our safety, his mental well-being. He needs to be comfortable everywhere. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time on that. He knew things before going blind, like the Spanish walk. So then I changed that to stepping up or over things. So that's how I cue him to get on the trailers. I bring him up to the trailer, tell him leg, and he picks his leg up and steps on the trailer floor. But the last couple years, I don't even have to do that. Like he senses the floor and the step up. Even in other trailers he's never been before, he can tell the floor is there and he needs to step up. He likes to spread his legs, his back legs wide and rest back on his butt. So I can't put him up against a wall. So he's usually in the second or third slant. He doesn't like to eat in the trailer or at breaks like the gas station. I try to water him and he usually gives in after the first day. He's just, I wouldn't say he's like upset, but he kind of gets pouty with me. But then when we do go somewhere and we get a run around, he's happy. So he doesn't like the trailering, but he just deals with it.
And another part of this I wanted to bring in is Cinnamon. So why don't you tell us who Cinnamon is?
Yeah, I rescued Cinnamon when I knew Endo was going blind. I wanted him to have a little friend. And she was from a place where all the other minis died from lack of care, and the sheriff said they needed to rehome her. So I got her a bit before Endo went fully blind, and at first they didn't get along since she was neglected. She wanted the whole hay pile to herself and would kick him in the face when he tried to get it. So he put up with that for about 2 weeks, and then he picked her up by the neck, her mane, and threw her to the side. And now they eat together just fine. She's spunky though. She's turning 28 this year, but she acts 3. Like even driving her in the cart in the summer when I try to let her have a break and a breather, she's pawing because she wants to go again.
So do you haul her with Endo and all, or maybe there was a time period where you did, or how does that work?
No, no. A lot of people, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but with blind horses, they want a buddy for them, and I think that's great. But they also need to learn that they're fine without their buddy because it's kind of a dangerous situation when you're trying to like shoe a horse or do vet work and they're dancing around looking for their buddy. So she stays home and he's fine without her. She's more worse than him, and she'll just holler and neigh and be upset if I take him into the ring or somewhere she can't go. So she just stays home. And Endo understands she's at home and he's not looking at for her at events.
I've had a couple of horses, unfortunately, that the same thing, uveitis, they've lost one eye. So I've never had a horse that's lost both. But they
Question
generally,
for the one eyes with the one-eyed horses, are they Appaloosas or not Appaloosas?
none of the ones that I have had were.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a thing. Something that I've noticed is usually the other breeds get it in one eye, and it seems to be with the Appies, they get it in both eyes. And it seems to be the more white ones like Endo are affected more because I have another one just like Endo named Penny.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, what I've noticed is that these horses I'm generally leaving them out in pasture, but they generally wind up with a buddy that they keep
Mm-hmm.
around, and normally the buddy is on the blind side. And I've always kind of looked at it, it's like they're seeing eye horse, and
Mm-hmm.
they're always at like 7 o'clock with the buddy on the right hand side in their blind spot 10 feet away, and they just kind of follow that other horse all
Yeah.
over, and they can see to their good side and see enough to keep that other horse right there. And I've had 2 of them that, if you didn't know it, that they were blind, and then they functioned perfectly fine and adequately like that. Both of them rode well before and ride just fine afterward. We try to like speak if we're on the blind side walking up to them or something so that they know that you're there. But
Mm-hmm.
that's been about the only, they'll still turn left. The only thing is you now have to be a little better steward because if you turn them left and there's something there and you run them into it, that's on you, not on them. And sometimes we expect horses to handle themselves a little more than what you can expect of a blind horse.
Yes. You reminded me of something that I realized at one time. So I've had 3 completely blind horses, and at first I was just used to Endo, who he can sense things on his own, like the walls and the gates. So leading him around isn't too much different. And with my other blind horses, I forgot that they're not Endo when I ran them into several things. Like, oh yeah, they're blind, they're not Endo. And so I have to tell myself that every time I'm haltering them. Remember, they can't see, they're not Endo.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure when you have a rock star like that, yeah, you have to be conscious that not every horse is Endo afterwards. So what would you say you have learned through this experience with him in terms of building a horse's confidence and stuff? Because I mean, it sounds like he's better now almost than he was when he had his sight. Um, so do you really view things through that lens in terms of building their confidence and all, or is that more a byproduct for you, or what?
I don't know. That's kind of a hard question. Yes, I've done a ton of work on him, and he is better than what he used to be when he could see. But that took years. And I mean, that was the goal. It's not a byproduct, because if he's not comfortable somewhere, well, then I can't enjoy something with him. Um, so yeah, I had to come up with ways. I noticed, so we went to one event and I grabbed his halter at the snap, the lead rope, and I did this walking exercise with him where he had to pay attention to the rope to know to go forward, to stop, to turn this way or that way. And when he had a focus on that, he stopped worrying about where he was. And so I started doing that at every new place, and that was very helpful. So I would lead him around and then find grass. And then when he would start getting like, where am I? We'll go back to walking, give him cookies. That helped a lot.
So I'll say here, like when I've been watching you in Endo for years now, and one of the things that I've always noticed about him truly is his ears. I don't think people read ears nearly as well as they might, but like his attitude about stuff and his attention on you is just phenomenal. I mean, it is a case of as good as it gets. It truly is. And I don't think people consciously pay very much attention to the horse's attention, and that's often the first step of the real problems that they're having. They never really have the horse's attention, and then they try to ask him to do something when he was off in left field over there
Hmm.
mentally.
Yeah, his ears tell me what he's thinking and looking at.
Hmm. And I mean, he's honest, like they're always in a good position. And I guess you're showing clips, but I mean, I've never seen a moment with him that they weren't just gorgeous. I mean, absolutely everything you could ask for them to be. And so it shows a lot about your relationship with him. And you kind of keep saying it took years as though that's an excuse. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't have expected it to take years, and plenty of people spend years and don't even come close to getting those kind of results. So I don't think you should feel bad about it taking years. That's what it should have taken, So um
Yeah, I like to say that though, because like I said, a lot of people contact me
mhm.
wanting their horse to be like Endo, and I can't write that all out.
Yeah, managing expectations. I get that, but that's um anybody that understands anything about horses should fully understand that this is years and not days, weeks, months, especially to the level that you've got him. So let's talk a little bit about the specifics of the training? I know positive reinforcement is involved. Is that pretty much, are you a purist on that, or are there kind of other things that you bring into it, or are you just going by the gut and don't care about the terminology used, or what?
Yeah, I really, really hate that terminology. And I
Okay.
don't know if it's the people that, I don't know. The positive reinforcement crowd, it just, a lot of them think that's the way, and they call what a lot of us do is negative reinforcement. But I don't believe that's the right term for it, because it's more of a conversation. You get what I mean? So the negative
Yeah.
reinforcement will be adding, you know, doing something to the horse until it does what you want it to do. And it's not that, it's a communication where I'm tapping here. I want you to do something with this body part. And then you did it. Yeah, that was exactly what I was asking. So I feel like it's a conversation, and I don't like the terms. And I don't know if it's the crowd that follows that type of training or what.
Yeah, I do understand what you mean there. And I'll just say here too, you actually kind of inspired this thought as you were saying that. Verbal communication between people, me telling, let's say my 12-year-old son, "Hey Colt, would you go empty the trash can?" Uh, Technically speaking, that's a negative reinforcement. I'm adding the annoyance of my voice and instruction, and the relief from that is that he does the task, and then I shut up. If I have to tell him 4 times, or I get louder, or use his middle name comes out, or whatever may happen in the process, all of that is technically negative reinforcement. So when people think about that in terms of like an aversive and some of these other technical terms that come in there, um, you having a conversation with another human and simply asking them to do whatever is negative reinforcement as well. It isn't this great unpleasant thing that we tend to rationalize it to be. It's just a form of communication, and a very, very widespread one. It's way more a part of the way animals communicate naturally than we tend to realize. And I definitely understand what you mean with the positive reinforcement purist crowd. There's some pretty holier than thou folks in that deal, and they basically want you to feel like the scum of the earth if you're not doing their virtuous method. And
Yes,
it's a bunch
exactly.
of bullshit. It's just nothing to do with reality whatsoever.
And I do, so what I do with the horse, it just depends on the horse. So I have some horses that I get in, you can't do anything without scaring them. So I do a lot more cookies and breaking things down slowly. But the horses that don't need that extra care, I'm working on, like, I don't want to spend forever working on the horse to get this little thing for this cookie. I mean, it's not really a problem. I want to move on to bigger things. And then sometimes with the horses, I teach them words so that way they know the word. And then when I need them to do that, I tell them the word, and then they know exactly what I want. It just, it depends on the horse and their issues. That decides the training method. If they're dangerous, and sometimes I have to get loud, I have to snap them out of that dangerous behavior and redirect them. But like I said, the horses that are scared because they got beat, I can't do that with them when they're freaking out.
Mhm.
So the methods just depend on the horse and the situation.
Yep, I agree. They're all tools in a toolbox, and different jobs call for different tools. So I think that's the right way to look at it. Would you say with Endo, or with Penny, or any of these other horses, do you notice other senses of theirs becoming more heightened? So like you mentioned, Endo, you feel like he can sense fences and walls and gates and things like that now. Do you think maybe his hearing is better, or have you seen a difference in the way his brain processes information, the sort of variability or adjustment that he has made in terms of this or other horses penning, perhaps, or how do you feel like it changes them?
I haven't looked at photos, but I think Endo's nose, his nostrils open bigger a lot more than they used to. Like he's able to take up more air and sense. And I've wondered if that's because he's always trying to sense things with his nose. Um, I think that their hearing doesn't get better. I think they get more, they learn tricks to navigate their environment. Like Endo will feel airflow to know if there's a door there or a wall. And then he originally did not want to go into corners. And I think the sound is different in the corners and he can't tell exactly where the wall is. Now he does. But in the beginning, he didn't know what to do with that. And then he learned that meant a corner. So I think he just learned skills to navigate his environment rather than being able to hear or smell better.
That makes perfect sense. Really does. I guess this next question may be a little bit of a more tender one, but for someone that may have a horse that's going blind and they are looking at doing the work and setting things up properly and making this transition, how much of a part of that would you say is where the horse is previously? So in other words, like I'll say candidly here, I had a mare that came to me in training about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, and she was pretty wild. And I worked with her and she got a lot better. I was riding her around, and then she went through another cycle where she got pretty wild. And when I say wild, like would hurt herself, like she would really freak out. And
On
and I
her
worked
own or when you were working with her?
both. And it
Interesting.
wound up being she had uveitis. She was going blind, and I felt like if she had been gentler when all that started, that maybe we would have had kind of a shot. But as wild as she was when all of that started, like there was, as it progressed, she was truly a danger to herself and others. And she's one of the few horses that I've told the customer, I think we need to euthanize her. I think that's the best thing to do in this situation. I've only done that a few times throughout my career, but she was one of those that I really felt like was going to hurt herself or someone else in the process of her going blind. So I guess what I'm asking is, how big of a deal do you think that is most of the time, that if we've got a horse that's already at a pretty good level, things are good, we're going to have a good chance of getting through this, versus if they're wilder when that's happening, or maybe having some problems and so forth? How big of a part of that process would you say that is?
I think that just depends on the owner, like their abilities and the time they have to put into the horse. The first horse I recommended to be put down didn't come to me with an eye problem originally. He put his owner in the hospital for 2 weeks because he flipped over on her. And then I had to figure out why. And I originally did not think eyes because his eyes looked fine and he was an Andalusian. But messing with him, I noticed at times he could not see on the right, but sometimes he could. And the
Hmm.
vet said he was fine, but then they took him to a specialist, and I forgot what it was, but something, oh, it was some kind of mass that growed and then broke off and would occasionally block his eyesight. And it was $15,000-$20,000 for that surgery. And he was very aggressive to other horses, and the owner couldn't afford to house him at her home or a private area. He needed to stay at a boarding barn. So then, if they couldn't get the surgery and they couldn't keep him where he wasn't around other horses, I said he just needs to be put down because the owner wouldn't have been able to work with him safely.
Yeah.
So it just, I
And
think it depends more on the owner, not the horse's abilities going in. I think it's the owner's, the skill level and the time.
okay. And I guess I feel I've just a little obligated to maybe a clarification point. What we're talking about as recurrent uveitis is also, in layman's terms, also called moon blindness, and that comes from a time way past where these horses will be blind for a little while as the swelling on the optic nerve and all that shuts off sight, and so they may be blind for a week and then they'll be fine for a month, and then
Mm-hmm.
it kind of cycles in and out, and generally the cycles get shorter and shorter. They're blind for longer and longer. They see their periods in between where they can see get shorter and shorter until they lose sight completely. And so the old timers thought that this was being caused by phases of the moon, and so that's where moon blindness came from, because it was this cyclical thing that they didn't have an explanation for. So if you hear that terminology, that's where it comes from, and what they're referring to. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the most common eye problem that horses have. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so you would feel in certain circumstances um, comfortable trying to make it work with a horse that, let's say, wasn't broke to ride yet, wasn't real gentle. You think there's still a chance in cases like that? I mean, I could see that with one eye, but with two, I would I would think
Like
that's kind of a long shot, but I also don't have your experience with blind horses. So,
Emma, my second blind horse, she was not broke when I got her. I went to her owner's place, and I think maybe in 2 months, so like 7 sessions or so, I was able to ride her outside on her third ride. And I was going over ditches, hills, and the owner was so excited. She asked if she could really see, and I told her no, I just know how to ride a blind horse through terrain. So then she gifted her to me. So yeah, I started her, and then within a year, she was able to pack beginners on trail rides. She ended up needing to
golly.
be put down though. She had liver damage, and they said it was from a time where she had to eat probably bad weeds. Because they told me originally she was eating bad weeds. I'm like, she eats the same thing Endo does, and Endo eats really expensive hay. So they said it was probably before I got her, because when I
Mm,
body clipped her, she was covered with bite mark scars, and she didn't want to go outside. She just wanted to stay in her stall. But yeah, I started her and I got her going pretty good until she had to be put down. And then Penny, I'm going to start Penny with the blind horse training series that I'm going to do. When she was surrendered to the rescue, they said that she used to ride and pack. So I got on her to evaluate her for rehoming, and she held her breath. And I eventually got on her in that session. And when her butt touched a panel, she took off bucking. So then I
mhm.
decided I wanted her because I liked her fighting spirit. So I'll break her out, but she probably won't be a beginner's horse. Uh, but I do the process just like a sighted horse. It's just I touch them more instead of using my body language, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. I would think the verbal cues would. I have a pretty specific process in how I think about verbal cues with a horse, but I can definitely see there the merit of that with these horses. Like, you're giving Endo the cues to, here's something in front of you, step up over it, and so forth.
Mhm. Yeah, so like on the lunge line with a sighted horse, I would step back, pull their nose towards me, and then apply pressure on the outside shoulder to get them to turn. And the pressure would be me like just waving the whip or my hand. But with the blind horses, I have to start with tapping their shoulder. So I have to
Hmm.
touch them to teach them something. Where a sighted horse, I could just wave my hand or the stick, and that's usually just enough to turn them.
Hmm. you're still getting their awareness to a certain thing, just in a different manner because they can't see you anymore. Yeah, makes
Mm-hmm.
perfect sense. Yes, ma'am. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the Guinness World Records that you have done for endo? So you've got 3,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to say one of these in particular, you have the highest jump by a blind horse at 106 centimeters, which is about 3.5 feet for the rest of the world. So, and I guess I'm reading them, so I'll also, you got the most flying lead changes in a minute and the fastest weaving time of 5 poles. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really one of the things that kind of blows my mind. Like, I can see how you got most of this done with him. The ability to add speed to that really just blows my mind. Like the working equitation speed test, I know what those courses look like. Most horses with sight and their riders wouldn't have a prayer of going through those courses slowly, much less fast. And you're doing it
Mm-hmm.
with a blind horse at speed. That's just, it's truly remarkable. Um, so what gave you the thoughts of Guinness World Records? Is this kind of a way to honor Endo and a accomplishment for him, or what?
Yeah, we talked originally and came up with those together because they wanted something that could be measured. So that's why there's the time on the records. Because I was
Hmm.
wondering if there's the smartest horse in the world or something of knowing this many commands and this amount of numbers or minutes. So they wanted something that could be measured. So the jumping, I used to lunge him over jumps when he could see, like when he was 5. So he did it before when he could see, but we didn't do it after he went blind. But I did teach him to jump without stopping under saddle, just because I wanted to see if we could do it.
Hmm.
So I lunged him over a jump to do the record, and he could have got a higher height, but at canter he would get so excited and go too fast for me to give him the timing. So we
Hmm.
had to do it through trot. And I'm kind of bummed with the video footage they got because everybody was standing in front of the jump, but
Hmm.
far enough back where he could land safely. But he didn't want to jump because he was worried about the people in front of him. So you'll see him kind of shimmying over the pole. And that's
Hmm.
because he did as much that was needed to do the jump like he was supposed to, but he was also trying to not do a lot so he could still hear what was in front of him.
That makes complete sense. Yeah, you would think a horse with a little bit of hesitation there on going forward and jumping is understandable in his circumstance. Again, I mean, kudos for you just for having the gumption to attempt any of that, much less achieving all of it. That's really, really impressive. It truly is. Um,
Thank you.
and then you have kind of a pretty popular series on your social media, the word of the week. So
Yeah.
how many commands did Endo wind up learning, or does he, or I don't know if that's still ongoing with you, but like what's the number? What are we talking? It's got to be more than a dozen. I'm sure you're way up there. So.
I'd say maybe 40. He could know more because there's a lot of cues that work for different things with my body position or whatever he's doing.
Hmm.
If that I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
situational. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So what I like to teach all horses, especially the blind horses, is when I tap somewhere or if I'm in a certain position, the kiss means different things, but generally I want them to move something. So if I
Hmm.
would put that to words, he would know a lot more words.
I know you're a little short on time today, so we want to
Oh,
be
we
sure
we
and
can
get
keep going. It's fine. I fed them all a big breakfast.
okay. Well, let's talk about your blind horse nonprofit that you've recently started, the Blind Equine, which is a registered 501c3. And we will have links in the show notes to that, along with some links to your PayPal or Venmo. So if anybody listening to this feels inspired to make some donations to help her with this project, I think it's certainly one of those things you could do that would earn you some bonus points in life. So what is your goal with the Blind Equine?
Right now, eventually I would like to have a lot more blind horses and take care of them. But right now I want to make my blind horse training series. So I'm using donations to help pay for Endo's things and my facility. So that way I can take time off of training 10 horses and work on the video series and creating it. I am going to give it away for free if since the nonprofit's helping me, like I said, pay for things, I want to give it to for free so everybody who needs it has it. And it's not going to be for just blind horses, it's going to be fully sighted horses. That way, people who know their horse is going to go blind, they can start training them the way I train. So that way, when they go blind, they have the tools to deal with it and work through it.
So I've got a fundraiser opportunity for you here, or a thought anyway. You reach out to like Ronnie Millsap or Stevie Wonder, and you get them to come to the place and lead him a little bit for the picture, the photo opportunity, and then you sell Blind Leading the Blind t-shirts.
That's
And I
funny.
would buy one of those for sure. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe not that. I'm just spitballing here. So what I guess give us a little bit of the story of Penny. How old is she, breed, and all of, I guess, is she another Appaloosa or POA that's double eye blind, or?
Yeah, she's in Appaloosa, but she isn't registered. Like I said, she was surrendered to my friend's rescue, and I decided I'd take her. I think she's maybe 14 or 15 now. I got her when she was about 13. She was really aggressive with other horses, so I did not turn her out with other horses for a long time. And it was mostly over food. Like she would attack them, chase them away, and then she'd circle where that horse was looking for the food they had. So I had that issue with her. She must have not been able to eat in her past. I don't know if it was because of her blindness. So she had some issues. And I haven't been working with her since I got her because I've been trying to save her for the blind horse series
Hmm.
that took me forever to start. But so she had her second eye removed in December, but she already couldn't see out of it. And I started putting her out with horses because I have a 5-acre pasture she's in. And I was having issues with her freaking out at dinner time when it was time to bring horses in because they'd be running around and she didn't
Hmm.
understand what was happening. So I paired her up with this other horse I got from the same rescue that was, she was very dangerous with a buddy sour issue. And the rescue and the foster home couldn't keep her just because of her behavior with other horses. She was also starved and abandoned twice in the last like 8 years. So nobody wants Betty. But I fixed Betty. She no longer goes through walls and doors and has meltdowns when she can't see horses. So I paired her up with her, and Betty actually keeps her away from other horses and also brings her to the gate. So I now have Betty. We didn't adopt her out. I'm keeping her. But then Penny started to get buddy sour with her to the point where she got badly injured on a door latch because she just wasn't listening. And I didn't know exactly what would work, but I just started doing the routine, the pattern. Horses come in, she gets her grain and alfalfa, she goes out the next morning. And for maybe 2 weeks, she kept neighing and running over her water bucket. And she's finally relaxing and understands that she's not alone. There's horses all around her. She's just going in a stall at night. I had to rope her in the beginning because she actually could sense well enough to stay away from me, so I couldn't halter her. And chasing around a horse that can't see isn't very safe. So that's why I tossed the lasso over her gently. So then I'm safer that way. And now, so I taught her also whoa. So that way, when I have her on the rope, I can tell her whoa, and she understands what I want. I want her to stand still. And that's helped a lot. So now she's better. It took a while, and I didn't know if it was going to happen, but so that's where we are with Penny.
So if you had to give, let's say someone calls you and they say, you know, I've got a horse, my vet's telling me we've got about 6 months maybe, and then both eyes will need to come out. What sort of advice would you give a person who was going into this process and wanted to give it their best shot, best foot forward?
I tell them to desensitize their horse to sounds and touch, and then teach voice cues. Like especially whoa. Whoa's the most important one. And that's usually just as much as I say. I feel a lot of people want the emotional support too when they come with me to me for help, and I just don't have time for that. I wish I did, but
Yeah.
and then break everything down into smaller steps and take it day by day, and not expect your horse to be endo. Just what they can do, what they're happy with. You're on your own timeline.
Would you say that going through this process with endo has made you a better trainer?
Oh, definitely. He taught me everything, even before going blind. Just working with him, because he seems easy, but he is the most difficult horse I've ever had to train.
Those are usually the ones that give you your wings, so to speak.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because you had to work with them on everything.
Uh-huh.
He used to wait for me to turn my back when I would put him in the round pen or arena, and then test if I was holding on tightly to the reins or the lead rope. And then if I wasn't, he would take off and jump out of the round pen or arena.
Hmm.
He was very challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes the teaching a horse to jump can be a double-edged sword. You get the ones that now release themselves from the paddock or whatever because that fence in front of them is no bigger than the one in the arena, right?
Yeah. It was before I taught him jumping, though. He thought it was funny to outsmart me, or he didn't have to listen to me. So
So I'm kind of gleaning through most of this that you are somewhat of an autodidact. So you've taught yourself a lot of this stuff and kind of learned it the hard way. But have there been mentors or old dusty musty masters books or videos or anything like that you've turned to for advice, or has this been all baptism by fire for you?
right now I kind of browse, like if I have time and I need something new to look at, I do browse all different kinds of trainer videos. Originally, when I got endo from my grandma, she gave me a couple John Lyons training books, and I liked how he wanted to put a cue to everything, and I like that. But then how he broke stuff down for the horse to understand, I think those two things, and then also make the right choice easy, the wrong choice hard. That doesn't work for all horses, but for Appaloosas and endo, yes, it does. It helps.
Well, I have to say, I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Appaloosa. Some people, have a bad reputation with them. They think they're all hard headed or this, that, and the other. But I've enjoyed the vast majority of the ones that I've played with, they tend to be really smart and really tough. They kind of make you earn it. But
Mhm.
I think the people that have trouble with them, they've kind of been outfoxed for the most
Yeah.
part. It's not that the horse can't be, it's that they're just a little trickier than that person is ready for right now. Well, I was really preparing this for an hour and trying to be uh very respectful of your time. So that's all I had organized to ask you about. And I don't. You said we could go a little bit over, but I don't know what you direct me. We can kind of wrap this up, or we can just go off the cuff and talk a little bit more. If there is something now that I haven't asked you about that you would like to talk about, then we can go there.
Mm, I can't think of anything. We covered the nonprofit, his records, what he's done. Do you have anything that's popping up in your head?
I wanted to add a little bit about the obstacle stuff and his sensing what's in front of him and all, if you
Oh,
wouldn't mind.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
R-
Um,
I took him out maybe 6 months ago to a cross country course, and he knew I didn't have, there's a video of it. I didn't have to cue him at all. He could sense the bank and just picked his leg up super high and stepped up on it. It I've been thinking about that, and I think it's the wood because he does it on bridges too now, where he knows it's an obstacle and he has to pick his legs up higher by smelling that there's wood there instead of just dirt. He's crazy. He's something
mhm,
else. One of the working equitation obstacles is riding through a pin with maybe a 3 foot space to go all the way around on the inside. If
mhm,
that makes sense, you go
mhm,
in, do it one direction. At the upper level, you'll do a half pirouette, switch leads, and go back in to do it the other way. And maybe the first 3 years, I could not get him to canter because he could sense the barriers there without even touching them. So I had to teach him to trust me and listen to me, even though he can sense something right in front of him. So that was tricky.
mhm. That really is so. I've seen videos of you at, and I meant to write this down so I'd get the name right, but it's something like the Northwest Trail Course. It's the indoor obstacle
Yes,
course that
yes,
just looks amazing, and the way he's picking his way through that, it just seems like he has to have some kind of sense of there being things around. He's just too clean about it, you know. Um,
yes. Yeah, I struggle with him with that. I mean, no, I do it easy, we're not in danger, but he just goes. And then I'm like, well, I would really appreciate it if you listen to me with each step. And he's like, I got it. I got it. We're fine.
I would imagine, yeah, the way he kind of comes out of it, he had to have been a kind of off the charts bold horse before this ever started. Like that's just his default setting because he's not tentative at all. I mean, he is full
Th-
send. Let's do
It's the
this.
new him, though. He used to not be like this. And now he is. Just charge ahead. He doesn't know what it is, but he'll just deal with it and keep going forward.
So, have y'all had some wrecks? Has he hurt himself or anything
Oh,
in this
no.
process? No.
No, no, no. When I taught him to canter, so he used to fall down a lot on his own. And when I taught him to canter, the first time he slipped on the grass and fell on me. And normally, like if he got away from me, he would take off bucking, kicking, saying, he, I got away. But he stood there right over me and even rested a foot. And he understand he hurt me. And so he almost fell another time not too long after. And he fought so hard to stay up. He actually ripped his lip pretty good. And then ever since then, he doesn't want to hurt people. So even with little kids, he's very careful and he understands that he doesn't want to hurt people. So he watches himself. Even though he's forward, he has the rider's safety as his highest priority.
Well, I would imagine going through the world like he's going through the world, that it would naturally kind of help with proprioception and balance and that kind of stuff, where a normal horse might turn this corner in the mud a little too sharply, that he would be more self-protective and all of
Yes,
that stuff, you know.
you mentioning balance. I'm not going to give you the answer why, because I want it to be part of my training series. But when he just had one eye left and had somewhat like the smallest amount of vision, he definitely could see light and dark, and that helped him maintain his balance. But then when he went to no eyes, he would get dizzy on the lunge line, and that happened with all three of my blind horses with the lunge line. And it's just something I learned with the three, of how to keep them from not becoming dizzy. So when they go blind, like I said, they can't see light or dark, so they lose their balance more, especially when going faster.
It makes sense. Kind of like people getting seasick when you
Uh-huh.
don't have sight of the horizon and all. Absolutely does. Well, this has been a really, really cool conversation. I'm glad that you consented to coming on the podcast, and I know you have done some stuff. You've been at the Liberty Festival and some of those things on the road. So I hope we wind up crossing paths somewhere down the line and get to work horses together or something. This has just been a super cool to get to talk with you and to see what you've done with these horses. And I think you kind of were the right person with the right horse in the right place at the right time, and it's changed your life. And I'm tickled to see you having the success and the notoriety and all that you're getting from this, because you've gone above and beyond and done things most people wouldn't have had the courage or the gumption to try. So kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a fun conversation. I like being asked about the training, and then I get to think about it. It it makes me happy. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next week for another episode of Adult Onset Horsemanship. I've been your host, Daniel Dolphin.